Hey everyone, and welcome into the Reload podcast. Along with Nathan Gilsleider and Marshall Scott, I'm Justin Southwell, and we got a few things that we can talk about now because we had a teaser and then a reveal same day, and it wasn't quite what people thought it was. In fact, I was pretty disappointed whenever I found out that was actually going on. Instead of N7 uniforms like we all thought this might be, we have a new sponsor. And by we, I mean Oklahoma State Athletics. And they have a sponsor with Osage Nation now. So before I dive in to this, which I'm sure some people have probably already seen my stance on this on social media, but before I break it down into even more detail, I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on the matter. So Marshall, what did you think about this whenever you saw that announcement?
Yeah, this is something that Justin is very passionate about. I think for the most part, we think similarly on it. But I'm maybe just not as passionate about it. It did look like it was an N7 reveal coming out. Everybody sort of quote tweeted all of those tweets that literally every team put out with, like, oh, N7 uniform, like that. That is just sort of what that felt like. So a bit of an awkward way to sort of get this out the door. But I as far as jersey patches go, I don't necessarily love that jersey patches are on anybody's uniforms at this point, whether we're talking professional sports or college sports. But this one is fairly discreet. The color scheme is similar. Oklahoma State could use the money just like any other college program should use the money or could use the money. So yeah, I'm not super passionate about it. I don't, if I had it my way, people wouldn't have jersey patches, but that's just not where we're at as a society today, as Mike Gundy would say. So that's sort of my thoughts on it, Nathan. Let's hear what you think, and then we'll give Justin the floor
here. I mean, I don't like it, but I love the fact that for the first time since NIL has happened, that Oklahoma State is adapting with the times, and this is what we have to do. Unfortunately, this is where we're at. Born and raised New York Yankees fan, like, I despise the fact that they've got anything on their uniform besides the pinstripes. But even the Yankees have a sponsor, so I can't get too upset if my university, who has struggled mightily since NIL, has decided to go this route. I mean, OU has Riverwind on their football field. We have, and I think we have Bank of Oklahoma, and and this is another way for us to try to close that gap because we're hurting in a lot of ways as a university in athletics, and this is the most common denominator as to why. Obviously, I'm not saying that's the only reason. There's a lot of factors gone into it, but as far as jersey patches go, I think it's pretty benign, and luckily the color scheme actually kind of goes with the university, so it's not that bad. And I don't know, I'm interested to see when we can get like the financials on it, if we ever do, what that partnership is going to look like. One thing that they mentioned is that they had been in talks with a handful of larger corporations, and I don't know, I'm kind of wondering who those were. I mean, we're going to get like a Sonic patch, like free corn dogs over 35 points in Boone Pickens Stadium or something. Like, what were we going to do here? But
I would have celebrated a Brahms ice cream cone.
Well,
I would
have Brahms, Brahms
I would have celebrated that.
Yeah, but no, I honestly, I do not like it. It's where we're at. I mean, Premier League, their entire kit is just a giant billboard, and they're the biggest thing in the world. And NFL, I'm sure that'll be. I know they've already gotten their practice uniforms, and so I don't know. College sports was the last holdout, and now that it's gone pure professional, it was coming.
Yeah, both of you guys mentioned the color schemes being similar, which in the end, I guess I am kind of thankful for. If this is the way we have to go and we're partnering with somebody, it makes sense. Like, let's get some orange and white and black in the mix rather than some gas station that has red in their color scheme, and it would completely clash with what we've got going on our uniforms. So
you would be upset about a Buc-ee's combination here, because I could get along with that.
I would be, yes.
Okay.
Field sponsorships, another thing I don't really mind. I feel like Bank of Oklahoma field, whatever, not a big deal. But I have a certain affinity for uniforms and what they represent. And so, it's been a long time since I've been in journalism school and writing, but I felt the need to write out my thoughts here for this because I didn't want something to go unsaid of what was floating around in my head whenever this announcement was made. And so I'm just going to read it directly from here because I don't want it to be, I didn't want to just sit here and memorize it or forget.
When did you write this? I think that's an important piece of context. When did you sit down and
yeah, so it started yesterday and it flowed a little bit over to today to finish it out. I gave it some time to think on it. I wanted to make sure that these are rational thoughts, not just that it was hideous looking on our uniforms. I have a legitimate, I believe, stance behind this. So also, I should preface by saying this is nothing against Osage Nation. Personally, I have no problem with those guys. This is just my thoughts on sponsorship patches in general. So let me tell you what a jersey is worth, not in dollars. That is the mistake everyone keeps making. We see a jersey and ask, what can we get for it? I'm more interested in a different question. What does it mean? Because the moment you stop asking what something means and start asking what it's worth, you've already changed the relationship with it. That jersey represents over a century of Saturday afternoons. It's your parents watching Barry Sanders with a thrill that can't be replicated anywhere else. It's you and your spouse sitting in silence after a missed shot at the national championship, and then showing up next September cheering even louder than before. It's your kid wearing eye black and a number 1 jersey on Halloween with the belief that one day he'll run out of the tunnel in Boone Pickens Stadium in front of 60,000 screaming fans. No dollar figure exists for that. And the moment you try to assign one, something shifts. There's a difference between a symbol and an asset. An asset exists to generate value. A symbol exists to represent something larger than itself. For generations, that Oklahoma State uniform was never inventory, it was identity. The same reason you never put a sponsor patch on an American flag. Not because a jersey and a flag are equal, but because they belong to the same category. Symbols that derive their meaning from existing outside of commerce. Now, I understand why they did it. This adapt or get left behind landscape is brutal. The financial pressure is real. I'm not naive enough to think that passion pays the bills. There are other naming rights, there are facility deals, there are dozens of other avenues that don't require putting another brand's name on the one sacred symbol of the program. The uniform should be the last thing you touch, not the first. And somewhere in that boardroom, when someone slid a contract across the table and said, we'd like to put our name on your jersey, someone should have paused. Not because the money wasn't good, but because nobody stopped to ask what the uniform actually represents and why an identity built over generations through blood, sweat, and tears should never be shared with another entity's brand. And before you say it, yes, the Nike swoosh is on the uniform. That's different. Nike designed it. They manufactured it. Their presence was earned. What we're talking about now is purchasing visibility from something you had no hand in building. One was earned, the other one was simply sold. And I'm all for NIL and partnerships. There's a place for that. But there's a reason the pros can get away with jersey patches where universities should not. A professional franchise is openly a business. Fans know what they're engaging with. A university is different. It's a community, a tradition, a shared identity that runs deeper than any transaction. When you start treating it like a professional organization, you don't gain the revenue model, but you might lose what makes worth watching in the first place. My concern was never the size of the patch or how tacky it looks. It's the philosophy behind it. The assumption that visibility is inventory, that the uniform, the closest thing an athletic program has to a flag, is just another surface nobody has gotten around to selling yet. Some things are worth more than what they could generate. And once you sell them, you don't get them back.
That was we went into that sort of hee hee ha ha. That was beautiful. Holy smokes. I'm moved. I'm ready to run through a brick wall. I don't think I, necessarily, you've said this throughout. This is just the way that things are going. But I think you told no lies within that. I think that was well thought out and beautiful, man.
Appreciate it. Just, yeah, like you said, this is the way it's going. So I can be all passionate about it all I want. Hopefully I won some people in that argument, but at the end of the day, money talks.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate place that we're at, right? I don't know that anybody I think a lot of people like to say like, hey, I'm all for it. I'm this, I'm that. But I think if you put a little bit of truth serum in a lot of people, I would imagine the vast majority are not thrilled with the way that things are going, how fast we've gotten to where we're at, the trials and tribulations that everybody's going through to get there. It's only the haves and the have-nots have only gotten larger. I remember whenever I had come back to Stillwater, and I was, and Coach Glass let me train at the facility and do some things. And I was up there and I was hopping around to everybody, you remember and you saw, and I went over and saw Wes Edwards, and I was talking to him, and he had a sheet, and I was just looking at it, and it was the fiscal year athletic department budgets of the Big 12 members. And even at that point, OU had doubled us, and Texas had added another 25 to 30% on top of OU's budget. And we had just beat Texas, I think like 7 out of 8 years or something like that, right? And so like you take a lot of pride in that stuff when that happens, and when you are a part of Oklahoma State and a part of Coach Gundy, that's part of where that pride came from. Is a lot of the guys were overlooked. A lot of the guys were maybe, not given every single thing. And you could kind of overcome that with the hard work and determination that you learned in the weight room with Coach Glass and those things. But unfortunately now, like, that can only take you so far. While I agree with almost everything you wrote, it's just such an unfortunate thing now that like you have to bypass those feelings and be like, hey man, if this is going to get us $5 million more towards our football roster, so we don't go 1-20 again, like throw it on there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
That's just kind of the unfortunate aspect of like where I'm at with it.
Yep. No other thoughts on that. Just, there's other ways to go about it, but it makes sense. Other teams are doing it. Other, like I said, professional organizations, it's low hanging fruit. So why fight it? Just embrace it, which, okay. Hopefully it's a good figure. Hopefully it frees up whoever's, crunching the numbers back there, and it makes it easier for us moving forward.
Well, we can switch topics here in a second, but it's the stark reality. I sent a message to y'all a couple of days ago, and it was from Front Office Sports. In Louisville University is acting in a $30 million deficit as an athletic department. Like, that's insane, guys. Like, that's obviously you can't keep that up. It's not, I think last season was 18 million, and this season is going to be 30 million for them this fiscal year. I mean, that's a deficit. So
yeah. So do you view something like that?
It's wild.
For example, like Louisville, Oklahoma State, I guess there can be an argument there. If we're shifting to that Power 2 conference model and you only have a certain number of slots, maybe they drop the bottom feeders from some of these other conferences in the SEC and the Big Ten, and they bring in somebody like an Oklahoma State or a Louisville or whatever the case is. Do you feel like a deficit like that hinders their ability to potentially get in, or is it negligible in the grand scheme of things? How do you feel like?
I think teams are they're throwing everything at the wall right now in hopes to get in, and then whenever they're in, the money figures itself out from there. I think that's sort of the goal of people right now, is just to be at the table or to have a chair whenever the music stops.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there is a, like you said, Marshall, I don't know if there's a correlation that anybody's going to look at anybody's books and be like, well, they're in debt by $100 million. If they're bringing eyes to TV and they're good at football and okay at basketball, you know what I mean? Like, I think the only sport that truly matters, unfortunately, is football, unless you are KU or somebody along those lines with basketball. I just, because it's really hard to pull people in college basketball alone just for a brand.
Yeah.
And I think KU is about the only one that does it, at least in our neck of the woods. And other than that, it's football. So I think, to your point, Marshall, I think everybody's just like, hey, whatever it takes to make us get competitive and win our conference or do something like that, and pull big TV numbers. That way, when you get to the table, you have something to argue about.
I've been so focused on football, I didn't really think about the potential domino effect that it has on the other sports. And what I mean is, like, Kansas basketball, obviously, Duke, North Carolina, ACC, if we're shifting to a Power 2, where do they fall in this? And yeah, that's interesting. So much rides on football. It's crazy in our minds. So who knows what's truly going on behind the scenes with basketball and the way that all that shakes out. But anyway, we need to discuss some other potential, I guess, changes that are going to be incorporated, because I've got like this 5-for-5 eligibility. When I saw that initially, I thought, oh yeah, I remember going to Arby's and getting 5 for 5. It's a great deal. Bring that back. Nostalgia. Oh wait, speaking of nostalgia, real quick, I know we're moving on from jersey patches. One other thought that I just had was, I think there's a reason why we're seeing so many universities' football programs shift back toward the 80s, 90s era of the designs and the uniforms that got that nostalgia factor to it. It's like, yeah, because we want college football to look like what it used to be. And this is our last hope of getting that. We're ruining it by putting patches on. Okay, I digress. Here we go. 5-for-5 eligibility. So, Marshall, give us a little bit of a breakdown as far as what rules we can expect moving forward.
Yeah, so it got voted on yesterday, which was Tuesday. It essentially is just a rule that's going to eliminate red shirts, going to sort of streamline eligibility, which I think overall is a good thing. I think there was always eligibility questions throughout college sports history, but COVID really sent everything into disrepair because people got extra years, and then people are then the NIL stuff starts happening, so now people are suing for extra years, and you just really have no idea how long anybody has left. So 5-for-5, you've got 5 years, no red shirts. You could hypothetically play 5 seasons now. I don't know what we're going to call. Is it going to be super senior? I don't know. Maybe you go below freshman. Maybe you meet them somewhere in the middle. But yeah, so just a couple of rules about it. Ruby Malin took to Twitter earlier this week and was like, does this mean I get an extra year? Unfortunately, no. Doesn't apply to people that just finish out their clocks. People who are actively in school or this incoming freshman class, they can use 5-for-5, or they can use the old quote unquote system, just sort of dependent on what they would prefer. But this will be effective for all athletes who enroll full time in the fall of 2027. So the 2027 class of high school class is going to be the first full cycle of this, and then 5 years from that, everybody will be on it. So, like I said, I think it's overall good, just because eligibility is so out of whack now. There's 28-year-olds competing against 18-year-olds. There's people who just went to the G League now playing. I did write about this today on the site that I think it's going to be the most interesting in wrestling, because this is something that Penn State and Oklahoma State in particular, it's good in wrestling to be super deep, because you need the practice partners to continue to get better. Iron sharpens iron, very much one of those type of sports. But now with this 5-for-5, you can't really juggle red shirts like maybe you could have in the past. So, in 2028, Jax Forrest is going to likely be competing for an Olympic spot. So he would have taken hypothetically an Olympic red shirt, and then somebody who maybe was redshirting the year before could jump into that spot. Now that's not so much the case. There's only 10 guys that can compete at the national tournament. I wrote today, I think there's David Taylor has 9 guys in the past 2 classes that were in the top 10 of their recruiting class. And then on top of that, there's like 6 other All-Americans already on the roster. So, the math ain't mathing as far as 10 goes. So that's going to be super interesting. Our guys maybe guys are just okay with sitting out a year and going, yeah, I've just got 4. But these blue chip level, high level recruits, are they going to say, hey, I've got 5 years. I don't have a red shirt. I want to, wrestle as much as possible. So I think that's where it's going to be most interesting. I think everywhere else is going to sort of, just provide relief for everybody because, people can sub in and out and all that type of stuff. But yeah, I think wrestling is sort of where it gets its most interesting. What do you guys think about it?
My first thought was like the records that are intact, career records and stuff like that, which you already kind of saw with Brennan Presley because he basically had 5 years and he was able to have that career number. But it's like, do you put an asterisk next to those guys or whatever moving forward? I don't know what that looks like, and we're already getting a higher number of games anyway, because back in the day you only had, was it 9 or 10 games plus a bowl maybe? And bowl games, I guess, didn't count toward records up to a certain point. So just more stuff to try to have nuanced conversations about who's the GOAT and all that kind of stuff. But that was my initial thought. Other than that, I like that the NCAA is kind of like maybe bending the knee a little bit to some of what these coaches have been yearning for. And some of the bigger sports like football, for example, it's like, what are we doing with this redshirt stuff? Let's just have 5 years and call it good. So.
Oh, I should also add that it starts the beginning. So your clock starts the beginning of either your full-time enrollment at a university, that upcoming August or whatever, or your 19th birthday. So if you are 20 about to go into college for the first time, your clock's already started. So that's going to cut out a lot. Brandon Whedon is no longer, going to happen in college athletics.
Yeah, I think initially I'm like, thank God, like give us guardrails and then we can adapt, right? Like that's what you're looking for. We saw this several times last year when the season went south. You had a couple offensive linemen hold on to that year so then they could use it as a redshirt year and not lose it. And it's like, if they get NIL, do they just go ahead and play out the year now because they're not, you get 5 to get 5, like you're not trying to save a year for anything. So hopefully that's a good thing. I generally really, really like it because I think it just defines things a little bit more for coaches and for players on like, okay, do I get my 4th game or 5th game? I can't remember what the new rule was for the redshirt years. Like you could play like half a season, but it was like, now I have to decide, do I leave my teammates out to dry or do I have to keep playing or whatever? It's like, man, at this point, you just keep playing because that's what you're getting paid to do now. So I think this is a good thing. I'm hopeful that it sticks. I don't know that it will. Who knows the first time that somebody sues the NCAA over this one, and we'll see what happens, unfortunately. But my first thought was I really, really like it. I think it's a good start to what is hopeful to come with a lot more guardrails on one-time transfers or whatever actually ends up happening with a lot of this legislation. So we'll see.
And women's basketball had media availability. I did see that the recruiting tactic that JC Hoyt used for the number 1 transfer in the nation, Audie Crooks. But anyway, let's back up. Women's basketball, media availability. Tell us what's going on with the Cowgirls.
Yeah, so we met with JC, Audie Crooks, and then Liv McGill on Monday, I believe it was. Really interesting. It's really cool that they're doing these summer availabilities. It gives people like me, who it is my job to find things to write about in the summer. It gives me awesome things to write about. Obviously, it probably shows that they think they've got a really good basketball team as well. So really interesting stories. You mentioned the Audie Crooks story. That was what I thought was sort of the most funny thing, I guess, that came out of it. She mentioned that on her visit, JC Hoyt, starts a film session with her, and it is essentially a low light reel, a bunch of missed layups and stuff like that. And, that was JC's way of saying, like, these are the areas that, we would like to help you improve on. And, Audie sort of mentioned like, that's pretty bold of you to, just, she's got all these options for JC to, just go on there and show a low light reel like that. It was pretty bold, but, she said she respected it. She obviously, picked up what JC was putting down, and, boom, that somehow was enough to get her. So I thought that was like a really cool story. I think that really shows Hoyt's mindset. Hoyt also mentioned in some conversations that she thinks her and Liv McGill are pretty similar, and that they're, sort of uber competitive, much more competitive than the average person. And I think that sort of shows in what, that recruiting tactic. So another thing that stood out, it sounds like Liv McGill is really, really good at basketball. JC used the phrase generational around us, and that's going to have its own, it's obviously got a big meaning to it, but yeah, she mentioned a story about how, one of the first things JC said was she liked the leadership of this group already. That was probably a question mark with, so many people coming from different places. And then I asked like, what stood out about that leadership? And she mentioned Liv McGill. And so on a team with, these alpha dogs like Audie Crooks, like Staley Hurd, two players who have been the best players on their team. It sounds like Liv McGill, who will be a junior, is sort of like setting the tone for the group. She mentioned a story about it's like 6:30 in the morning, and Liv and Staley are about to do a one-on-one drill, and Liv is like up in Staley's shorts and like takes the ball from her, and then Staley sort of like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. So then they're sort of going at it. Staley's glasses get knocked off, and Staley picks them up and just tosses them to the side, and they keep going. And then they said, JC said at the end of the day, she's pretty sure that Staley drove Liv home. So like that's sort of like the competitiveness that they've already sort of established, and JC really credited a lot of that to Liv, and just sort of mentioned like when she walks in the gym, like the tone sort of changes. So it sounds like she's going to be, really, really good. Obviously, everybody's excited about Audie Crooks, and I think that's justified. And then the fact that you're going to get Audie Crooks and Liv McGill in a pick and roll, and Staley Hurd's going to be standing on the perimeter waiting to hit a three. I'm pretty excited for what the Cowgirls are going to be having this year.
Yeah, I anytime a coach talks about your best players being the ones that set the tone, like I automatically think you've got a chance, right? That's such a big thing. And if you've ever been on a team, it's really difficult to have somebody that's like a captain or a leader that's also not somebody that's contributing to wins and losses. Like it's really, really difficult. And even on a football team with 100 and however many people out there, like your captains are going to be guys, you might have like one special teams guy that's an absolute maniac that gets everybody fired up and does his job. But outside of that, it's your quarterback, it's your defensive lineman, your safety, whoever it is that really impacts the game, because that's what you look to. So Marshall, when you guys were interviewing and they were talking, and it's like, those are the things you want to hear from a team that just got put together. Those people have to set the tone, and really, I mean, they're in control of how good they're going to be. I think everybody can see that, and you see that when you look at the roster. But I mean, this team could quite literally be as good as they want to be, and if they keep setting the tone like that, they've got a chance to be a very, very special team in Cowgirls basketball history.
That's exciting stuff. So I'll be on the lookout for those ladies. All I thought of just now was that patch on the uniform for the Cowgirl basketball team. Y'all got to fix that. Like, I'm sorry, it just
it looks like a little weird on the wrestling.
On the wrestling singlet, I'm like, that's got to be the most.
That's almost sacrilegious. Yeah, that one is almost like that. That one almost needs to, so somebody needs to get called about that. But
what do you want to put it on the headgear? Like, where do you guys want to?
I think it's like dead center in between their shoulder blades. But
yeah, it is.
It's just, I don't know about that one in particular.
I think that could be like screen printed on. I feel like you don't need a patch for that. That looks like no. I don't know.
Yeah, they won't. They won't have like a hard patch. I don't think that had to be screen printed part of the.
That's what it looks like right now. So
it does. I think. Yeah.
Oh man! All right. Tell me, man. If I were wrestling there, and I had to deal with that, I think about transferring to a university that did not have that. All right, I don't want to deal with that. I digress. All right, baseball. I'm going to talk about baseball because they picked up a few more commits. I've not seen this in baseball. I'm going through it, man. Like, I didn't want to mention what happened, but the thing happened where that other team won a national championship, and they just caught fire at the right time. They're inferior to us in every single way, and this is what can happen. Like, it should make you mad, but then it should also give you hope. Like, hey, why not us next year? Anyway, baseball commits. We'll just push forward. We're gonna push forward through this. So, Marshall, tell us what's going on in the world of baseball.
Yeah, sort of on the OU winning a national championship thing. That is, everybody who had been upset about Holiday, that was just like another reason. Like, it obviously had nothing really to do with Oklahoma State, but there's just like another reason for people to slang stuff at Holiday. But yeah, so Oklahoma State added.
To be clear, I don't feel that way.
I don't. Yeah,
no correlation at all.
We're a pro Holiday podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, but
you could view that I was not necessarily in the last podcast. Just if he was my explanation for the question that we had in the mailbag was, is he the long-term solution? Probably came off a bit harsh and sounded like I was not a pro Holiday guy, but at the end of the day, I am. I really want it to work out for him. So just maybe these commits will help. Please.
So they added their seventh yesterday, I think. Sean Yamaguchi, he's a transfer from Nevada. He was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year in 2025. Had another good year, hit above 300 again this year. So through 2 seasons, he'll be a junior this upcoming season. Through 2 seasons, he's hit 318 with 27 homers and 87 RBI. He's we sort of talked about it beforehand. A unit, it seems. He's 5'9", 205 pounds. Him and Sebastian Norman, who's 6 foot, like 235. They should just have like a unit off. Pause. And we're moving. But yeah, it's been a lot of pitchers to this point for baseball. This is their second infielder. They've got Yamaguchi, Aubrey Kearns, a Morehead State transfer, another really good hitter. And then they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pitchers that they've picked up. And some of those pitchers, Utah, Wake Forest, Washington, Texas Tech. So, they're the Power 5 level talents. One is a D2 guy that was a stud at the Division II level. So I think baseball is sort of one of those sports. Obviously, the junior college in baseball is a bigger deal than it is in basically any other sport. So I think baseball players can sort of come out of anywhere. But the fact that they do have, some guys who are proven at the Power 5 level, Yamaguchi and Kearns, to, mid-major guys stepping up, but they've got the numbers for it. So I think it's an overall good pickup. The Holiday discussion, I'm sort of over having it at this point. Nothing's going to happen. We'll see what happens next season.
I'll plug the chamber real fast because OSU grad said in the baseball PFP Plus forum, with a name like Yamaguchi, how can you not succeed? It's a great. I like that comment.
Do you guys remember Pablo Sandoval, the third baseman for the San Francisco Giants?
No.
Okay.
You're putting me on the spot.
He's built like a young Pablo Sandoval.
Okay.
So he's just an absolute unit, man. And he moves pretty well. Like, if you watch him move at third base, you won't find anybody that was a bigger fan of Miola than me. But so I'm not saying he's Miola, but he makes a lot of plays over there. And he had offers from just about anybody. So we got him.
Also should mention Little League World Series champion with a Honolulu-based Little League team, I think in 2018. The fact that he was playing Little League baseball in 2018 when I graduated college is not what I want to hear. But yeah.
This is where we are, Marshall. No, I think this class is coming together nicely. This is the first go around for our pitching coach to actually get his hands on it and get the guys in there that, excel at the things that he likes to do. I mean, the D2 kid might be my favorite of the pitchers. I think the Wake Forest prospect transfer might have the most upside that we've got out of the whole group, but the D2 kid is really, really solid. And then, like you said, the Austin Kearns, and then is it named Austin Kearns? He has
Aubrey Kearns.
Aubrey.
Austin Kearns used to play for the Reds. Aubrey Kearns I know your brain's like filled half with like, names from teams that you shouldn't remember, but that Austin Kurtz is one of them.
Ben Lycum is the D2 pitcher, by the way.
Okay.
I've got a list in front of me. I'm not off the top of my head at all.
But one thing I am interested to see, and nobody can gauge this. There will be a lockout almost certainly next year in Major League Baseball. And that will affect the people that get drafted this season and when they can sign and what they can sign for and how long will it go on. Because if you're not in business, you can't pay signing bonuses and you can't pay your players and, you're unionized. And so I don't know who it'll affect or how much it'll affect, but I just know that it will be an effect. And it'll be interesting to see like some of these guys that are going to get drafted for Oklahoma State. If you get drafted late enough, it may be worth just coming back and running it back. So, I don't know. It'll just be interesting. I'm intrigued by that when you're putting this all together, because coaches, baseball is a very odd sport in the way that you've got high school kids that you're like, well, if they sign, I have a spot. If they don't sign, you know what I'm saying? And then you're going to add in your own players into this. Like we saw with Nolan McLean a couple years ago, he was highly drafted and then didn't get signed. And then he came back and did it again. So you just never know.
This is a sort of a sidebar, but I feel like baseball has finally like got some momentum as a sport, and that would just happen right before a lockout. That's like the most baseball thing ever. That you know what? It's sort of cool to like baseball again, and then we're actually not playing anymore. It's like all right, then baseball. I'm not excited anymore.
It's rough.
No, I know college baseball is getting popular again. Like this is the perfect timing. Let's just go ahead and put the kibosh on it and kill all the momentum you got. I agree. Let's do it.
That's rough. Michigan's coach just got hired by the Dallas Mavericks. So who better to be the interim head coach than Mike Boynton? That's what's happening. So Marshall, your boy, Mike Boynton, he's back in the head coach position. This time a little bit different with Michigan coming fresh off a national championship. Thunder got a guy from Michigan in the draft. So they're loaded. They're legit. I'm excited for him. Very cool to see him kind of get another opportunity here with a big time program like with Michigan. So I just wanted to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Yeah. So Mike Boynton's basketball year has been winning a national title. Then, he grew up in New York. He grew up in Brooklyn, but like the Nets were in New Jersey whenever he was growing up. So he grew up a New York Knicks fan. So then the New York Knicks win a championship. And then, the head coach of the team that just won the national title gets hired away and he gets promoted. It's been an outstanding basketball game. Cade Cunningham had an all NBA, first team all NBA season. So what a basketball year for Mike Boynton. Sort of, I imagine he's going to have, resources weren't at his disposal. He mentioned that a couple of times during his time at Oklahoma State that the program wasn't the best resource in the conference. When NIL started, we sort of mentioned earlier in the pod, sort of the struggles that Oklahoma State went through early on, especially in that process. Resources will not be an issue at Michigan. Obviously it's an interim basis. So like how much can you really do? But I imagine if he recruits at the level that he was able to recruit at in Stillwater, and he's got these resources, and then he's got, whenever he got hired as Oklahoma State's coach, that was his first head coaching gig. So he's now got 7 years of, what works and what doesn't experience. I don't think anybody in Oklahoma State circles would be super surprised if Mike Boynton was very successful at this, and parlayed this into, whether it's a job at Michigan or a bigger job elsewhere. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. You mentioned that there were 3 Michigan players drafted in, I think the first 15, the first 12, because Morrow was the last one. Yeah. So I don't think he would mind me sharing this, but he texted me after the fact and mentioned, because he knows I'm a big Oklahoma City fan, obviously. I kept saying we, and then I finally had to put in parentheses, I put myself on the team, just so you know. But he said, you're going to love this Mara kid. He's an absolute freak show of a basketball player. His passing skills are jaw-dropping. His rim protection is insane. His soft hands and touch are ridiculous. Enjoy. So
nice.
and then he got me hyped up for the Thunder's draft pick. What do you guys think? And obviously give me your takes on Boynton, but also what do we think of the Thunder's draft? I was a little getting center. There's iHeart, there's Jay Will, obviously Chet, but it was exposed in the Western Conference Finals that there is an alien playing in San Antonio, and we've got to figure out different answers for him. So I've talked myself into the pick. It wasn't necessarily what I was thinking about on the draft, but I left feeling more confident about it. Now, obviously, he's a really good player. I just wasn't so sure going center given the roster.
Yeah, happy for Coach Boynton. I thought he got kind of a raw deal at Oklahoma State. He backed that up. He had plenty of opportunities to win. I mean, he did. And he had some really good teams that should have made the tournament and should have gone farther in development, and some other things didn't happen. But he also, had the suspension that he had no part in, COVID, and a couple other things that really went against him, right? And so I don't know that I've ever seen a coach build up more goodwill with a university that he didn't have a great amount of success at. And that speaks volumes to the kind of person he is. And so when you get people like that, and, you were happy for him when you saw him win at Michigan, and then, like you said, the Knicks, and then now this, I honestly, my first thought was, because if you've ever heard Coach May talk about Mike Boynton, like he relied heavily on him. And I was like, maybe he'll just go to Dallas, because everybody's about tired of college athletics right now in the coaching world. Looks like he's going to take that interim tag for the whole season. And, he does really well. Maybe he'll get a shot. But even if he doesn't get a shot there, he's going to have a real shot, because he's going to have a top 10 NIL team and coming off of a national championship and so forth. So just excited for him in that way. Thunder, you talk yourself into that they're going to go all in at some point for somebody, and then they just never do. Like I loved the kid out of North Carolina, that went at number 4. I would have shipped every draft pick that we've got and just go get him and go in. But that's obviously not what Sam Presti does, and that's why we have sustained things. But I thought Mara, coach, summed it up. He's a great pick, got length. So we'll just see. And I really like the kid from Iowa that we got later in there. He's absolute sniper and can shoot. So we'll see.
I don't know. Impressive with trust always. And I figure even if we drafted somebody and it doesn't work out, we'll just trade him for some picks or something like that. So, I'm never worried about the Thunder and their draft picks or the state of affairs. I'm just always fully, I have no stress because we have Sam Presti. It's a great feeling.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if they make a pick that I don't like, I'm like, oh, I was wrong. I was.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen for sports fans very often.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be the first. I'll be like, who the heck is Casey Wallace? Like, Jalen Williams? Are you kidding?
Jalen Williams was a crazy one. Casey Wallace, I like that one, but
but I'm like, whatever. Yeah, Santa Clara, cool. He's pretty freaking good.
Turns out he's integral to the team. Whatever.
Yeah, Kevin Durant was pretty easy one. Russell Westbrook was his first real out there.
And Harden was also. I was like, I wanted Ricky Rubio so bad, and they picked James Harden, and I was like, this is stupid. Holy, what a crazy person I was.
Steven Adams was even kind of a reach. He didn't have very much to go off of in college, but he turned out still playing. He's a good pick. So for his hit rate is outrageous. So to your point, Justin, it's like, he's probably pretty good. I'm sure we'll find out soon.
For sure. All right. Well, guys, appreciate you listening. Drop some comments, and if you haven't commented already, go ahead and do that now. Like, share, subscribe to show your support. If you want to rate us wherever you listen to podcasts, we greatly appreciate that. We will see you next time. Keep those pistols firing, and remember to reload. Go Pokes.